Hello guys, I I'll try to finish this scene now, and what I'm going to do is to model those little vases, and it's quite simple to do them. You just need to take a box with shift and press, and let's get this bottom polygon here and scale that down. Then let's grab this top polygon, hit B for bevel, and then right click, and I will inset a little bit, shift click, move it down, and set it again, and just press spacebar to drop the tool, and go to edges mode, select everything, then hit B for bevel, and bevel just a little bit, or how much you want, and press spacebar to drop the tool, and you can hit tab, and it's done. Then we're going to get a sphere. Okay, with shift and hit there. Then I'm going to press R for scale and scale that down, press D one time. Then I'm going to snap in and go to background in vector mode, and I'll enable my snapping here, press R, and I'll increase the size of this sphere, and press spacebar to drop the tool, and let me go down in here, and I'll select all those polygons excuse me, and I'll press shift up arrow until I get there, and hit delete, and that's it. Now we have to add a fur material, and I'll hit tab here to deselect, to unsubdivide. I think no, let me subdivide it. Then go to render tab, and we have to mask, so I'm going to select those polygons and hit M, and that will be 4. I'll call that 4 vase, and I'll make the diffuse 100%, and I won't care about specular. I'm going to Luxology under the share material. I'm going to download something here. Let me go to materials, and let me see here. I'm going to organic, and there you have it. I don't know how to pronounce that. Drumberdy. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's a very nice hedge. Okay, I'll download it, and you can see where you put the things. This little guy here, it's the material. I'm going to extract it, and it's under your name if you are using Windows 7, and just go to your documents and Luxology. If you are on Mac, you need to find this Luxology folder that has the content. Okay, then I'm going to asset, as you can see here, Luxology content assets, materials, and I'll put that on organic, and I'll go to think I'm going to just put there on organic, and I'll hit OK. Then I need to extract this folder, and it will be in the same place. Oops. My name, documents, and go to Luxology, contents, assets, and here I'm going to images and asset sharing, and go to materials, because it is a material, and I will put there, and it's done. If I go to my model here, you can go to materials and then organic, and there you have it. But I'm not gonna do this. I'm going to build my own hedge material, so I'm going to this little guy here and I will add, just to see how we do this, I'm going to add a fur material. Okay, fur material. Then I'm going to go to my fur material here, render density. I'm going to lower that to 50% so you can be very fast. Then I'm going to change to strips and take off the taper. I'm going to just 10%. Okay, then I'm going to my for shape, and I will zero out everything. Okay, so what I've got here is those little strips, and I need to make that wider. So I'm going to my fur material, and there are a lot of ways to do this. I'm going to read it and increase that, and go to my my length, and I'll take it down to make more like a square shape, and I'm going to render density 1% here, and that's what I'm looking for. Okay, now I'm going to add a image map, but instead of doing here, I'm just going to my asset images, and then go to the asset sharing, and it's under material, and here I have it. I'm going to select those three and put it in here and I need to change the UV to implicity UV, and it will be mapped to my fur, as you can see here. That's what we were looking for, and I'm going to increase here my, let me take a look, I'm going to increase my size here my length and my widget. Okay, let me take a good look. I think that's fine, and I'm going to select, let me see here, this little guy here will be the bump. Okay, this one here will be the diffuse color, and this one here will be the stencil. But okay, it's a JPEG, so we need to stencil that. If it was a PNG with transparent transparency, we would change that to RGBA, but it's not, so we need to stencil that. And when you have to stencil something, you really need to turn off the anti-aliasing of that. Okay, so now let me take a good look in here, and I'll need to let me select those two rows of polygon and then select the loop, press the R key, shift up arrow, and I'll scale that down until my fur here is not overlapping my shape. Okay, then I'm going to my fur material here, and I'll strip rotation 100%, and it will rotate the tapes 100% or 360 degrees in any direction, so I have this like randomness thing happening here. And now I'm going to render density and crank that up to 80. 80 is too much, as you can see here. I'm getting too much thing happening here, so it's too much. I'm going to 20, and we can make something here more random by going to the first shape, and let me see here what we can do. The size jitter, I'm going to 50%, so we get some really little guys here and some very big. I think we need a little bit more, 60 probably, and I'm going to add some flex here to flex my fur, but not too much. Okay, just a little bit, 10, it will be fine. And what you can do to avoid those very gappy, because if we crank up the density, we are going to get not in realistic look, but we are getting those things here. What you can do is to select your mesh, then Ctrl C, Ctrl V, R for scale, scale that down, and then rotate it. Then let me go here back to my render, and that mesh, you can really go to something crazy about the fur density. And to do this, we need to add a different specifications, different from this outside here, because if I crank up the density here, I'm going to get a density in the other mesh. So to make something different here, I'm going to geometry, let me see here, texture, select, and I'm going to assign selection set, and I'll call that ball dance. Okay, or over that, just ball. I won't have any other ball in my scene here because I don't know how to write density here. And I'm going to add and That's it. I'm going to hit OK. Then I'm going to add layer, a group, and I'm going to duplicate everything I have here. Okay, I'm going to duplicate, and I'm going to put that above in my group. Now I can go to the properties of this group, and I'm going to set a polygon tag to selection set, and the polygon tag here, it will be ball, and the change that I will do here will affect only my selection set. So let's go to my render here and take a look. If I go to the fur under the ball here and change the density to 100, as you can see here, I'm not getting any difference on the exterior edge here, and I can really make some things here to avoid this transparent here. And to do this, I'm just going to add a lot more flex, so the fur will go down. And we don't want to eliminate everything because we need to be able to see through in some parts. I think that's very good. Okay, and it's rendering very fast. Of course, I don't have global illumination in here, but I don't need that. And let me see here, I'm just going to material, conserve energy, and I really need, and what I should have done is I'm going to delete those guys, and I'm going to select all those, and I'm going to create instance, and then I'm going to put there. And what I did here, I don't have to change both maps. I can only go to one map here and change the gamma, and boom, I'll have it changed for the other part as well. And I'm getting some overlap in here, but I won't do anything right now. Maybe later on Photoshop. And I will add a specular amount here. I'm going to roughness 60, and just it, I think. Go to my material transparent here, and under the subsurface amount I'm going to 35 and zero out the scattering distance, and I'll make that a greenish color. Okay, that's it. And what I can do here, I can duplicate or duplicate, yes, the bump map, and make that subsurface amount, and I'll get some things happening here, and that's fine for me. And I think I'm having a very wide specularity going on in here, so I'm going to my material, under the specular I'm going to change the color to some very light green. Okay, and I'm going to lower that from 20 to 5, and maybe turn that from 60 to 80. Okay, that's fine for now. Now let me go to my item here and I'll select that, go to polygon, select those and give it a material, and will be pote. That's how I can call that in Brazil, pote of the plant. And you are learning Portuguese, aren't you? And I'll make that a brownish color, and I'll give it a little specularity here, and I'll give some reflections, and I need something here to see, so I'm going to my environment, outdoor, and I'm going to get something here. This one is very good to see the reflections, as we can see here. And I'll make this material blurry, and it's kind strange right now, but to conserve energy, and I'll make that, I'll give more reflection rays, something about 256, and I'll give some clear coat amount. Let me see here, 100. That's very interesting material. I don't know what material is that, but I will see. If I don't like the reflection, I'll change that later on my render tab, my final render. And let me see here, those four are still bothering me, so I'm going to again go to this item, then select polygon and select 2 loop, alpha scale, and I scale that down, and I think the problem is solved. Just a little bit overlapping, but we won't see that far away, and we can fix that on Photoshop. Let me enable my indirect illumination here and select both, just to see the subsurface scattering, and I think that's very good material. And I'm going to my model here, go to widen, and I'll just select both and Control X, and I'll paste everything in one single mesh, and I'll rename that to vaso planta. That's how you can call that in Portuguese, and I'll move that up, and it's very big, so I need to, in item mode, if I do that on my polygon mode, I'm going to change the properties of my fur and everything, and I don't want that. And first I'm just going to change where my center it is, so I'm going to center and go to bottom here, and I'm going to scale that down until it's good for me. And let me first move that into place, go to my perspective, and I'll move that up, and I still have the snapping turned on, so I'm going to turn that off. Scale, and I'll scale that down, scale that up. Okay, and I'm going to delete the other scene, vaso planta, and I'll make a instance. I'm going to move that, to here and rotate it, and I'll give a little rotation to this guy as well. I'm go to my render tab, and I hope that model does not crash, and I'll save that before something bad happens. Okay guys, this is the result I'm getting, and I think I'm going to crank up the reflection of this material just a little bit, because I'd really like to have a nice shiny thing here. So I'm going to reflection amount and turn that to 10 and 15. And let me take a look in here, and that's better, I think. I don't know. I'm going to check that on my final render. Okay, so the only thing that I'm not doing here is those little guys, and man, it's so easy to make. I know you can do that, but I'll just give you a north to follow. So I'm going to start a new scene here. I'm going to grab a cylinder and make something like that. Then extrude, go to my, press spacebar to drop the tool, go to my mesh edit here, and I'll choose, let me see here, edge slice, and I'll grab those two. Okay, and now let me see here, if I'm doing this right, I'm going to Ctrl Z and select this little guy and this little guy and bevel it just a little bit center, yeah. Okay, then select, then I'll cut right here, and I'll do the same here, and I need to get the same points. Okay, it's not that one. I'm going to shift click here, and the other point, let me see if I grab it right, following here, and I think that's it. So I can select everything in here and here. Okay, probably I'll make some change here and delete it. You know what? I didn't even need this polygon here, so you can do this without splitting. Then I'm going to select sorry, those guys and those, up arrow, and then I can bridge them together, bridge. Okay, or I could only get those guys. Oh my god, if you want to, I'm going to Ctrl Z here, and let me show you a very easy way. There is so many ways to do this, but there is some that are very easy to do, some others not that much. And delete everything. Then you can just use the thickness, the thicken tool, and there you have one little guy. If you want some thickness, if you don't want, you just use this without thickness. So I'm going to Ctrl C to use loop slice, and I'm going to add a 4 and 3, and I'm going to make like this and like this. Okay, spacebar, drop the tool, select 3, 4 of them up here and down here, then bridge. Okay, to make that hole, and let's make this same here, and then bridge. Then you can always adjust what you have here. That's one. And control, then you can go to duplicate and go to clone, right click and move it down. And as you can see here, we have something what we want. Then I'm going to select everything and press E for rotate, and if I change my action center to local, I can rotate everyone at the same time. I can make it like this to make it close, and then or I can let it open it. That's it, guys. And you take this and put on your scene, but I'm not gonna do this. Okay, so let me delete, close scene. I won't save it, and go to my scene, and I'll set the final render it, and go to Photoshop. And something I really like to do, but I'm not gonna do this, is to put a alpha channel in every single material, because when you do this you get a very nice mask for select everything. Okay, that's the better way. You can always choose here a, what would be, let me see here, it's better, a surface ID. Okay, that's something that helps you to get the same result, more or less. But you know, you have some problems to select some colors sometimes, and using alpha in every single object here, you get a very sharp and well contrasted mask for every single material. Okay, but I won't do this. I'm just going to ambient occlusion, and I'm going to my properties here, and I'm going to set the occlusion rays to 1024 and the occlusion range to 0.15 meters. That's 15 or 150 millimeters. Okay, that's nice. And let me duplicate this little guy here, and I'll set a depth. And what I want to do here is to get most of my scene without losing any detail, and I think that's very nice. Can lower that. I can see details down there and details on here, and that's fine. Depth output. Let me duplicate this little guy here, and let me see what else I could use. Let me go to reflection and occlusion. Let me see here. I don't think I need that. Do you? I don't know. I think I'm going to stay with that. And you can use a lot of things to improve your workflow on Photoshop, but I think I'm going to stay just with it. And I don't even think I'm going to use that, so let me go back to here to my final color output, and I'm going to add just one alpha channel here, so I'm going to render output, and it will be alpha color to my TV screen. Okay, just my TV screen, because I think it's too saturated, and I'm going to desaturate that later on Photoshop, and it's better to have something like that. And I think we are done here. I'm going to crank up the size here to, let me see here, 3000. And what I like to do here is to get a size of image that I can, if I need, for example, 3000 pixels on my widget, I'm going to set it to 5000. Okay, if I need 2000, I'm going to set always something higher, because I really like to lower my resolution down a little bit, because we get sharper edges and nice fine details on Photoshop when you do this. Okay, it's just like to set up a really nice anti-aliasing sampling here. Okay, so we cannot go, we can go, but we don't need to go too far on my anti-aliasing sampling if I'm going to reduce the size later on Photoshop. So I'm going just to 60 samples here, and I really like to use Catmull ROM, and the refinement shading here, I'm just going to 0.1 pixels, and I'll let the threshold on 10 or maybe 5 to get more sampling on more scene here, because if I crank that up, I'm going to limit the use of 1 pixels in my I will reduce in percentage how many places here we will use all these pixels, all this refinement, because right now I'm going to use at 95% of my scene, and 5% won't use it. On some places that is very easy to sample or to shade, and it won't use it. Okay, what I really like to use is to reduce the rate threshold. It will give me a more sharp image, and I'm going to reduce that one more time. Maybe I'll stay with that. And what I need to do is really crank up my area lights samples here, because we got two noisy things here because of that, and I don't want to test to see what is best for these results. I'm just crank that up to something to 2048, and I'll uncheck simple shading. I'd like to get a real what this does is you get a more realistic specular, because when you have simple shading, it will calculate the specularity of your scene just on the center of my rectangular light, and when I uncheck that, I'm going to get specularity and other things through all the size of my area lights. Okay, and I think I will crank up the I'll select that guy and that guy, and photometric light, I'm going to add more samples here too, maybe 256, okay, because sometimes they really make things noisy. And I'm going to select only this guy here, and I will lower the radiance because I think it's still too hot. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to select both, and this one here is a instance, so what I do to this one here, this one will get as well. And I'm going to texture layers, and I'll change the color to some yellowish color. Okay, and you can really go far on this yellowish color, but this time I went too far, and I'll go back just to warm something here. And I really need to be very careful with that. I don't like it. I'm going to a white color again, and if I want to, I'm going to change that on Photoshop. Okay, if I want to. Then I'm ready to render my image, so I'm going to render, and before I render I'm going to save that. It's always a good thing to save your scene every time you are going to render or do something, and it's a very nice scene. I'm going to render it, and then go to Photoshop.